You're watching Republic.
Hello, welcome. You're watching the Saturday special edition of This is Exclusive. Ladies and gentlemen, it's an unmissable episode and you need to stay with us. The reason being, on the one hand, you have Pakistan generals essentially discussing that they have only 4 days of ammunition left. So if at all there is a full-fledged war, perhaps Pakistan is in absolute no position to fight it out. So what do? They have once again gone back to their old tactic, that is of activating the terror launch pads. In the last few days itself, there have been 25 ceasefire violations. And how is it happening? All of this and much more as we go right inside Pakistan-occupied Kashmir, show you for the first time visuals of those very launch pads which have been reactivated by Pakistan. But up first, let's take you through the headlines we are tracking at this hour. Never seen before, visuals only on Republic TV, details of how Pakistan reactivated terror launch pads during the recent ceasefire violations. Baloch rebels escalate hostilities with Pakistan takes complete control of Kalat city, carry out mass patrolling. Undeniable Pakistan links to Pahalgam, established sources say former Pakistan Army commando loaned to Lashkar. Expelled from Islamabad, the Afghanistan refugees camping at Durand border highlights atrocities by Pakistan. Once again, a ground report coming in from Afghanistan. Ladies and gentlemen, Pakistan has once again opened fire across the line of control in Jammu and Kashmir. Late on the night of 2nd and 3rd of May, marking the 9th consecutive day of ceasefire violations. Now, according to the Indian Army, unprovoked small arms firing took place in multiple sectors, including Kupwara, Uri and Akhnoor. This comes just a day after Pakistan violated the ceasefire in 5 sectors. Security agencies have reported at least 22 such breaches in the last 8 days alone. Of the recent ceasefire violations, Pakistan Army has in fact targeted Indian posts from its post close to a Launchpad, intercepted by the agencies in the last few months. Now we bring you these exclusive visuals of a terror Launchpad in Samahni, which was last active in 1993, has been activated once again by the Pakistani side. The video of the Poonch sector, this is just opposite the Poonch sector, shows the Samahni launching pad active inside dense forests and some about 300 to 400 meters on the Pakistani side of the line of control. Ladies and gentlemen, let me now tell you where this launch pad is, how it has been reactivated and what's the real situation. For the first time on Indian television, through our sources in the security agencies, we've been able to take you through this very launch pad. Ladies and gentlemen, this launch pad that you see, now this is a little bit grainy, so what I'll do is I'm going to take you through the full frame visuals in a short while from now, just to give you an idea. This is basically just opposite the Poonch sector. And interestingly, this terror launch pad was last activated back in 1993. But interestingly, the ceasefire violations that have taken place in the last few days, it turns out that Pakistan has actually used one of these terror launch pads, reactivated it, and then used this very launch pad to carry out the ceasefire violation. This is along the Poonch sector. Now, why are we really looking at this very launch pad and how exactly have they essentially carried this out? We'll stay, Aditi, with first these visuals, because these are exclusive visuals that have been accessed. What you see is this is a top angle visual that has been that we have accessed, and this is from the security agencies. Now, this is located right about 300 to 400 meters from the line of control, and the Pakistani army has been targeting the Indian post from this very. This is part of the surveillance that was actually carried out by the Indian security agencies, and that's when they basically identified where the firing was actually taking place from. It was active back in 1993, and thereafter it wasn't actually used. But suddenly you have the Pakistanis once again using one of this very post, one of this very launch pad to basically target the Indian post. Let me now give you a consolidated list of the ceasefire violations that have taken place and why it is significant. Because the ceasefire agreement that was signed by both sides, and after this Pak Army General came to power, what essentially happened was he did not want to carry on with this ceasefire agreement. And essentially what has happened over the last few days, from the 29th to the 30th of April, 29th and 30th of April, number of violations that have taken place was first, that was in Kupwara. And then 26th and 27th of night, you have two such violations takes place. That was again Kupwara and Baramulla. Then between 27th and 28th of April, again Kupwara and Baramulla. 28th and 29th of April, Kupwara, Poonch and Baramulla. We'll also take you through the others. Here you have 29th to 30th of April, 6 violations, and these sectors, take a look at it. Now this is Kupwara, Nowshera, Sundarbani, Akhnoor, Baramulla, Pragwal international border. Now this we have been able to give you a consolidated picture of the areas where the violations have actually taken place. Kupwara, Baramulla, Sundarbani, Akhnoor, Rampur, Pragwal, Nowshera, Poonch. Now let me just quickly tell you that as far as the international border basically goes, if you're looking at the Poonch, Nowshera and Pragwal itself, ladies and gentlemen, it's important to point out that it is a rare act. And the fact that the firing has essentially taken place at this very sector, many within the defense establishment has seen this as an act of war. In fact, there are several such provocative steps that have been taken by the Pakistanis. Now, let's go back to this. 30th of April to 1st of May, you're looking at 3, Kupwara, Akhnoor, Baramulla. First and second, Akhnoor, LOC, Nowshera, Poonch, Kupwara and Baramulla. Second and third with, again, 3 such violations that have taken place. Let me just once again cut to that other visual that we have gotten. That's the terror launch pad. In fact, in a short while from now, we are going to get you a very, very special guest who's going to join us from the studio itself. But before that, let me also go across to my colleague Gursimran, getting us the latest details and a super exclusive tonight. The terror launchpad on your favorite show tonight on This Is Exclusive. As we have said, true to our name, this is our exclusive images that we're going to tell you. The terror launchpad that has now been accessed, the visual, the first visual of the terror launchpad that has been accessed by Republic TV. Gursimran is going to join us on this broadcast. Gursimran, the quick question that I want to take with you is with regards to why it is so very significant. A terror launchpad, non-active since 1993, suddenly reactivated by the Pakistanis. What's the strategy?
See, Shawan, what the officials in the intelligence agencies tells us that this is a new strategy by the Pakistan to push the terrorists from these new locations. These new locations, that is Samahni in the Poonch, has been one of the most active locations in 1990s. But in 1993, it was shut by the Pakistan side, and there was no report of infiltration since then from this space. But a couple of months back, it has been reactivated again. And now what we are getting to know that 2 ceasefire violations that have taken place in the Poonch line of control. These have been reported from the Pakistani posts that are very close to the Samahni launching pad. This is 300 to 400 meters. That is what we are being told from the line of control, and somewhere half the distance of the same from the Pakistani post. And it is believed that Pakistan is carrying out the provocations from this very area because they want to push more and more terrorists into the Indian territory. A total number of somewhere close to 45 terror launching pads have already been identified by the security establishment that are at the different locations, and all these locations you will find that they will be somewhere close to the Baramulla, somewhere to Tangdhar, somewhere to the Rajouri, Nowshera. So all these locations are close to the place where the Pakistan is provoking India or is trying to give a cover to the terrorists to sneak in. But these 2 terror launch pads, it's Kotera in Nowshera and Samahni in the Poonch, that have been recently activated by the Pakistani side. The agencies have intercepted that there is a movement of the terrorists very close to the line of control, probably seeking the time or an opportunity to sneak in.
Well, Gursimran, thank you very much for getting us the latest details. As I promised you right now, we have a very special guest tonight on This Is Exclusive. A man with over 14 years of experience. Raj Sharon, very popular. You must have seen him on his social networking sites. Thank you very much, Raj, for joining us. In fact, Raj, let me just quickly tell our viewers, a man with such a varied experience with the Cobra, with the NSG, and the fact that you've had, as far as internal security is concerned, many would say that you have a perfect domain understanding of it.
At least.
Raj, let me first begin by asking, you saw the story that we just put it out. The terror launchpad, I want to take you along with me. Once again, show those very images that we have accessed. For the first time on Indian television, we are essentially showing our viewers a terror launchpad which has now been reactivated. What the Pakistanis have essentially been doing right now, Raj, is that they've once again changed their strategy. The strategy essentially right now, when the commanders there had a meeting just about a few hours ago, they essentially discussed about the ammunition that they have. 4 days of ammunition is all that they have, is what they are saying. We don't know. That's the sense we get. But this that we are putting out, it's a little grainy. We'll go back to the visuals again. But Raj, what do you make of it? Multiple ceasefire violations taking place, as I understand from the military establishment, that as far as the international border being targeted, that in itself is rare, and perhaps that's a signal that's being sent out.
So I'll say this is not a news story, right? These things keep on happening on regular basis. So this is not a news story. We have been, let's say we have destroyed some terror camps in Balakot airstrike, in Uri strike also, right?
Right.
So, but this is not the solution, right? We are just destroying terror camps. We are killing like 100, 200 terrorists. But this is not the ultimate solution.
Right.
If we have to sort out this solution, we have to cut the supply chain. Let's say, I'll put one analogy here. For example, you have to cut down a tree. So you cannot chop its branches.
Right.
You have to attack its roots. If you want.
What according to you are the routes that we need to tackle? Because yes, you are right when Raju said that what's new about it. We all know that terror launchpads do exist. And yes, ladies and gentlemen, Raj is absolutely bang on when he says that terror launchpads are there. And that's the reason why it should be rooted out. Right? As they say, the root cause should be attacked. What according to you is that?
See, Pakistan has been doing this dirty work for last, like I'll say, more than 30 years. This is nothing new for the Pakistan. We are blaming something new. This is happening since Pakistan. In the beginning, he was doing this dirty work for US.
Yes.
Now again for US, for Taliban and everything. Now Taliban is coming against Pakistan. There's a different scenario.
Since you made a mention of Taliban,
yeah.
In fact, Raj, we are the only Indian news network now getting you, in a short while from now, live images coming in from the Durand line. We have a reporter there. In fact, let me take you through the other big breaking news now coming in, Raj, and I want you to stay with us. The breaking news, let's take you through that. Undeniable Pakistan link to the Pahalgam terror attack. Ladies and gentlemen, let's take you through the details of one of the terrorists that has been identified with a clear Pakistani link. Undeniable link between terrorist Musa, that's a Pakistani-based handler, and with Lashkar-e-Toiba, and the fact that he has been loaned by none other than the Pakistani army. Now let's take you through how exactly this LET terror network that has been built, and how does this man, Musa, who's been identified as one of the Pahalgam attacker, how is he basically linked to the Pakistani army? It turns out that radicalized in one of the jails, it is Musa who was loaned out, in fact given by the Pakistan ISI, so that he basically infiltrated almost a year ago. And take a look at this entire terror network that we have put. Raj, here we are talking about a man called Musa. Terrorist Musa.
Yeah.
And the Pakistani link. Pakistan has been constantly saying that where is the proof? Give us the proof. Undeniable proof. The reason why we are saying is that there is evidence. In fact, the breaking news that we have got, the security agencies have been able to get digital evidence linking Musa to his handlers in Pakistan, and the fact that it is also linked to the Pakistani army. I want your thoughts on this.
See, I'll give you one more insight here. We as Indian, we used to do international exercises with other forces. In Pakistan, they do exercises with terrorist organization.
Right.
So terrorist organization, nothing different from their army. Their people go there, they train there, they operate there.
Right.
So this is like that. So there are the news that this Musa belongs to an SSG, their special forces team.
Right.
So this is nothing new. This has been happening for quite long. Because how these people gonna train then?
Right.
Only forces will train them. So this is the thing here.
So also it's important to point out here is the weapon that they were essentially carrying along with the M4 carbides, and the fact that you have this tire, Augustine, which is largely a weapon that is basically used by the Pakistani army, the SSG in particular, and the fact that not just them being in touch with their handlers in Pakistan. Ladies and gentlemen, just take a look at how this is basically operating. Right at the front is Hafiz Saeed and Zakiur Rahman Lakhwi. Then spread across, these are the commanders as they put it across. Maulana Yusuf, that's the head of the operations in Afghanistan. Hafiz Khalid Wahid, the head of the foreign affairs. Nasir Javed, head of the trading wing. Yahya Mujahid is the spokesperson. Azam Chima is the operations chief, rest of India. Yusuf Muzammil, operations chief of Kashmir. Saifullah Khalid, LET. Now, TRF is essentially renaming of the Lashkar-e-Toiba. Now, rebranding of a terrorist group altogether. Hafiz Talha, again, the second in command, and of course, Hafiz Talha, as per reports, has once again resurfaced. In fact, there are images that have just come in of Hafiz Talha being part of a rally that has taken place in Pakistan-occupied Kashmir. Now, as far as these men that you see, these three men here, these three terrorists are the ones who have been loaned. In fact, one of them is Musa's direct links with the Pakistan army. Ladies and gentlemen, let's now take you through the other big story that we're getting. Over the last few days, we have essentially taken you through how the hostilities in both sides, as far as Pakistan's borders are concerned. On the one hand, you have Afghanistan, and one of the biggest province in Pakistan, there is a major uprising. Kalat city, remember, what we are being told, has been taken over by the Baloch rebels. In a short while from now, we're going to take you through those images that have been accessed by Republic TV from our sources from the Baloch groups. In fact, they are the ones who have now confirmed that roughly for about 4 hours, we are given to understand that they were able to take control of the Kalat city. In fact, Baloch freedom movement fighters have also given us more details of what has essentially happened. They conducted snap checking of the vehicles to control of the government and civil administration for roughly about 3 hours. In fact, controlling the Kalat city and a few other adjoining areas. On your screens right now, it's the Baloch freedom fighters who have cordoned off the Kalat city. BLA fighters, they have taken over for about 3 hours. Now, this is at a time when they were able to basically carry out multiple checks at Kalat, and also the fact that this, remember, is perhaps the symbol of the resistance that we are essentially witnessing in Balochistan. We'll also go across to Raj for a quick comment of what's really happening in Balochistan, and in fact the systemic oppression that we are essentially looking at. Raj, I want a quick comment from you is as far as Balochistan is concerned. We are looking at emerging hostility in Balochistan and of course Afghanistan. The last segment of the show will also take our viewers through what's happening in Afghanistan. Right now, the information that we had from our sources in Balochistan, in fact, these, what you see on your screens, Raj, these are images that we have accessed from a deep source in Balochistan with regards to what has essentially happened. Let's just go to that video right now. Those visuals are of the Kalat city. Now, Kalat, remember, also many would say is the symbol of the resistance that we are seeing in Balochistan.
Yes.
Interestingly, for about 3 hours, the Baloch freedom fighters, they took full control of the city, sending across a very strong message perhaps to the Pakistanis here. So do you believe that this is yet another challenge that the Pakistanis face right now? Because as one of the Jamaat Maulana had said in Pakistan yesterday, that the focus should not be Kashmir, the focus should be Afghanistan. And of course, let's not forget what's happening in Balochistan.
Absolutely, you're very correct. And I'll say the thing that is happening over there is a good thing, I'll say, from the Indian perspective. I'll say the Baloch, whatever the Baloch is doing over there is a very good part, or I'll say tactical part of asymmetrical warfare.
Right.
So actually it is helping in our motive that we want to achieve. Let's say we want stability in that region. Right. So I'll say Balochs are much better than Pakis.
Right.
So they will be a much better, let's say, if Baloch came out as a separate entity, then
Right.
it will be a good neighbor rather than having a Pakistan.
Right. Thank you very much, Raj, for joining us on This is Exclusive. Let me now take you through the other big story that we're going to get to you tonight. Ladies and gentlemen, our continuous focus has been in Afghanistan. And that's because, as I've been saying, that there have been emerging hostilities in Afghanistan and Pakistan. In fact, there is absolutely no end to the rising hostilities between Baloch rebels and Islamabad. A short while back, we also showed you images of what is really happening in Balochistan. In fact, as they were able to take control of Kalat, in Turbat also, remember, there is latest details now coming in of the Baloch Liberation Army neutralizing at least 22 of the Pakistani soldiers. Now, this happened in Turbat. Once again, as I said, on the one hand, you have in Kalat, where you have had the Baloch freedom fighters taking control of the situation there. And on the other, you have 22 Pakistani soldiers who were killed by the Balochis. In fact, this is a video that has been released by the Baloch Liberation Army. Take a look. Well, ladies and gentlemen, let me now just once again quickly take you through the full details of what has happened so far. Now, the Balochis, in fact, have released a statement saying that the Pakistani army is actually behind several of the disappearances that have essentially taken place in Balochistan. In fact, the reason why that they are at the loggerheads right now is the mysterious disappearances of various of the Baloch activists. These Baloch activists have been actually on the streets right now. And the fact that they've been protesting against the oppression on the part of the Pakistani army. And that is the reason why, as a response, you're basically looking at this particular image basically coming in from Turbat as you have the Pakistani army convoy actually moving in. There is an explosion that actually takes place right at the time when you have the movement of the Pakistani convoy. 22 Pakistani soldiers have been killed, and the Balochistan Liberation Army thereafter immediately takes responsibility of the attack that took place in Turbat. So there are about two places, Kalat and Turbat, in Balochistan itself, where there has been a massive uprising. As far as the development in Kalat goes, it's extremely significant because it basically shows the might of the Balochi freedom fighters who are giving a tough fight to the Pakistani army, sending across a message that there will be absolutely no control over this very area. Ladies and gentlemen, the other story that we are also getting to you tonight is coming in from Afghanistan. Republic, the only Indian network to have our boots on the ground in Afghanistan, getting you the current situation from the Durand line. Now, what has essentially happened is that with the Afghans sending a strong messaging to the Islamabad, stating that they are no longer willing to accept their word on this entire issue. Now, yesterday we explained how there was a consistent effort by Islamabad to banish Afghan refugees from Pakistan. We've showed you visuals of this crowded refugee camps near the Durand line, that is the Afghanistan-Pakistan border. Today, we bring you more testimonies, first-hand accounts of the refugees calling out the Pakistani oppression, how they have been made to live away from their own land, and the fact that this has now become the reason why Islamabad and Kabul are at complete loggerheads. Take a look.
نه د کتاله او نه بل شی دا اول ځل دا چې افغانستان ته روان یم نو دلته چې تورخم کې وګورئ نه یو سهولت شته او نه اوبه شته نه تشنابونه شته یو شی پکې نشته نه مې دلته کوز کړي دي نه مې هلته کوز کړي کنټینر یې هلته ولاړ دي مخکې یو سهولت نشته لارې ټولې بندې دي او دلته لګیا دي وروسته نه چاپیا چې هر یو مسلمان هر یو امام مهاجر افغان هر کاروبار ورنه پاتې ده هر یو شی ورنه پاتې خپل کور خپل درګاه هر یو شی ورنه پاتې کېږي او دلته راسې ډېر زیات په مشکلاتو کې دي
مشکلات خو وروره مشکلات ده نوم مې ګل اغا ده او زه راغلم د ضلع کسور نه پتوګي نه مشکلات بس داسې مشکلات موږ سره پېښه شوه چې هره ورځ به پولیس دروازې ته به ولاړو چې هله شاباس وځئ.
Well, the problems for the Pakistanis are only increasing. And here on This Is Exclusive, we're going to get you ground reports from across various countries to tell you exactly how Pakistan today stands completely isolated. That's all that we could pack in this edition of This Is Exclusive. I'll be back on Monday getting you more exclusive stories exposing the Pakistanis.